Fantastic. Thank you very much. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you, depending on where you are in the world. We have about almost 200 people online already. Thank you so much for spending the coming hour with us. My name is Aziza Akmouche. I'm heading at the OECD, the division that deals with cities, urban policies, and sustainable development. This is the place at the OECD where this work on the circular economy was born. So maybe I give you just a few quick housekeeping arrangements before we get started. I think in the next slide, Oriana or the team handling the logistics could. Just to say that this is a webinar format. Most of you will be able and actually invited to interact throughout the chat and the Q&A. Do not hesitate to drop your questions as we progress with the webinar so that we can direct them to the speakers as they come in. You can see on the screen the OECD account you can use to promote or to quote some of the messages of this webinar on social media at OECD_local. If we go to the previous slide, you see the HQR quote that gives you access to the report that we are launching today, which you're all invited to download and to read in your mobile phones, iPads, or other devices. You'll see it's very user-friendly, and you can maybe access real-time some of the information and data that will be presented here. We'll spend about an hour together. We'll hear from different speakers that have played a significant role in shaping this work over the past 2 years at the OECD. We're very proud to be launching the result of this 2-year bottom-up multi-stakeholder consultation with many of you online, many cities, many regions, many national governments, many institutional partners, and we look forward to some of the questions or suggestions you may have going forward. We'll split the webinar in two sections. We'll have a first set of interventions within a high-level panel. We'll hear from the director of the OECD Center for Entrepreneurship, SMEs, Regions and Cities, Lamia Kamal-Shawi, that spearheaded this work over the past 2 years. And then we'll hear from two front-running institutions or city representatives in the field of circular economy. I'm glad we have with us today Mr. Kilian Lohan, Vice President in charge of communication in the European Economic and Social Committee, and also Councillor Susan Aitken, lead of the Council of the City of Glasgow. This is one of the pilot case studies that we are undertaking these days on this very important topic. As I said, please do not hesitate to raise any question you may have, to specify if these questions are directed to one of the speakers for this first half. And then in the second half, if we go to the next slide, we will move to a different format where this time we will give the floor to what we call young innovators. This work is insisting a lot that what we need to do to actually change the way we consume, we produce, we move now and in the future relies on these new generations. And I'm very happy that all the pilot cities and countries that have played a significant role in this work over the past 2 years can get a chance to share their views and wisdom going forward. This will be for the second half. So we'll start with the high-level panel, and with no further ado, I will now invite Lamia Kamal-Shawi to launch officially the OECD report. Lamia, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Aziza. It's a pleasure to be here today to launch this new OECD report on the circular economy in cities and regions. Last week, the OECD held its annual Ministerial Council meeting, which was chaired by Spain under the theme Economic Recovery, Strong, Resilient, Green and Inclusive. And actually, we were very proud that this report was picked among many other OECD publications to be handed over to ministers. So we are very proud of this collective achievement. This work is the result of a series of interviews we conducted with more than 300 stakeholders. It is based on a survey across 50 cities and regions from OECD countries, and 6 policy dialogues that we conducted in Groningen in the Netherlands, Umeå in Sweden, Valladolid and Granada in Spain, Glasgow in the United Kingdom, and Ireland. The aim of this report actually is to raise the profile of local and regional actions toward the circular economy. It provides policy guidance on how governments can unlock their potential now and in the future to accelerate the transition to new consumption and production patterns. So this report could not be more timely. The COVID-19 crisis is indeed unprecedented, and it has highlighted the unsustainable nature of certain environmental and social trends, especially in cities. We saw air pollution, for instance, drop drastically during the lockdown. The crisis also questioned the way we work, we travel, we eat, and we consume during those days. And in the post-COVID-19 crisis, it appears that business as usual, based on a linear economy of take, make, and dispose, can no longer be an option. So now there is a great momentum to get the support of citizens on bold and ambitious environmental actions. Indeed, the circular economy offers incredible opportunities. It creates values while reducing the environmental impact of the use of resources and waste disposal. By circular, we mean an economy that uses resources and materials rather than uses them up. This is all the more important in cities. Why? First, because we know that cities already produce 80% of greenhouse gas emissions and 50% of global waste. Actually, the production of municipal waste is even projected to double, and water demand will rise by 55%. Moreover, we know that by 2050, the global population will reach 9 billion people, 55% of which will be living in cities. This means that the pressure on natural resources will increase while new infrastructure, services, and housing will be needed. In this context, we have to remind that cities have an instrumental role to play to lead the change. To recall, they have core competencies for most policy areas underlying the circular economy. These include water, solid waste, infrastructure, land use, or climate change. OECD data shows actually that subnational governments are responsible for 60% of public investment on average in OECD countries. They can lean on critical long-term investment choices related to energy, transport, and water to ensure the infrastructure of the future are not locked in linear systems. Let me now highlight 3 key messages that emerge from this report. First, why cities are experimenting approaches to the circular economy. The cycle is not yet closed. Many cities have understood the opportunity that circular economy represents, and they are taking matters in their own hands. For instance, cities such as Amsterdam have developed their own circular economy strategy in line with national ones to make material use more efficient, typically in the construction sector. In Umeå, Sweden, the circular economy is a means to achieve the city's goal to be fossil-free by 2040, while enhancing innovation and creating the enabling environment for new business models. In London, the circular economy is estimated to create 40,000 new jobs by 2036 in the areas of reuse, remanufacturing, and materials innovation. These are very good examples. However, the OECD also reveals that more than half of the cities and regions that we survey are just newcomers in this field and looking really for concrete ways to close the loops. It also says that experimentations and pilots to find new solutions to close loops in several sectors, from food to built environment, are used by 85% of the surveyed cities and regions. For example, they do so through modular buildings that can be easily repurposed, like in Groningen in the Netherlands, or through urban agriculture, as in Guelph in Canada. Cities like Valladolid in Spain are using smart technology for waste collection in specific neighborhood. But again, these are some examples, and to close cycles and achieve economic, social, and environmental benefits, these experimentations need to be scaled up. And here we are still facing very, very important obstacles. And this is the second message I'd like to highlight from the report. The transition toward the circular economy is being held up by significant obstacles, such as a lack of financing, the regulatory framework, and the lack of awareness. Most of cities and regions we survey, more precisely 73% of them, claim that funding is not sufficient to implement the transition to the circular economy. As a result, only small-scale, low-risk projects are put forward with very limited impact on job creation and environmental benefits. There are solutions to overcome these obstacles. London, for instance, set up a venture capital fund to support SMEs for scaling up circular businesses. But here, clearly, more needs to be done. Regulation is also an issue, as it does not always support innovation. More concretely, what type of waste can be transformed into new resources by law? How to reuse construction waste, reclaim water, and sludge while meeting health and ecological standards? One thing is sure, we need to cut red tapes and adapt regulatory frameworks to support the transition to a circular economy. A lack of awareness of circular economy practices is also an issue for over a half of our sample of cities and regions that we surveyed. To accelerate the circular economy transition, we need to build knowledge, understanding, and the buy-in for the concept of the cost and the benefits of the circular economy and of what it will entail for various activities and sectors. As a good example, I'd like to quote the city of Paris, which created the Grand Paris Circulaire, which is an online information platform on the circular economy to share information and support collaboration among public institutions, businesses, NGOs, and the public in general within the large metropolitan area. That means beyond the boundaries of the city of Paris. The third and last message I'd like to convey from the report is that cities need to promote, facilitate, and enable the transition from a linear to a circular economy. But they have to do that in coordination with national governments. Cities can play their role as promoters, facilitators, and enablers. As promoters, for instance, cities and regions can lead by example. Typically, they set up a strategic vision and share information to generate a circular economic culture among businesses and citizens. As facilitator, they can coordinate with national government to overcome regulatory obstacles, to foster collaboration across municipal departments, and to bridge silos among environmental, regional development, agriculture, and industrial policies. And finally, as enablers, cities and regions can create the enabling condition for the transition to a circular economy. For example, through matching human and technical resources, supporting business development, and putting in place fiscal incentives for innovation toward sustainable production and consumption practices. But of course, cities cannot work on their own. They need to work hand in hand with national governments. And here, many countries, by adopting national strategies on the circular economy, are already sparking actions at the local level. But national government can do more and should do more to support cities in this transition. For instance, national governments can accompany the transition through regulatory tools, including to prevent waste or to mobilize industrial businesses to transform production methods. They can also provide financial incentives, and in particular, environmentally related taxes, which are increasingly being used in OECD countries like Denmark or the United Kingdom, for instance. They could provide significant incentives for innovation as firms and consumers seek new, cleaner solutions in response to the price put on pollution. So these are just a few of the key messages from this report. Of course, you will find much more detail in the publication. I think the beauty of this work is that it also provides a checklist for action and a scoreboard, which are very, very concrete tools to help cities and regions self-assess their level of advancement toward the circular economy. So going forward at the OECD, we will continue to develop new activities as part of this program. We will produce new work at regional level in the EU, but also in Latin American and Caribbean countries. We will also work more specifically on some sectors, starting with water, and we will carry out a new round of case studies on specific cities. So here I invite all cities and regions participating now to this webinar to advance their transition toward the circular economy, to join this work. You are welcome to join this work. And before I hand over to Aziza, let me express my deep appreciation for the work that Aziza and her team, Oriana, Ander, and Luis have done to produce this very important work. And of course, my gratitude to all the cities that participated to the work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Lamia, for introducing the key findings from this report, and many thanks to all of you who've been very active on the chat. I couldn't keep track of the tens and tens of countries. We have over 400 participants registered, but I can tell you attendance goes from Latin America, Ecuador, Colombia, Costa Rica, all the way through Europe, Germany, Spain, UK, Italy, Slovenia, Romania, Middle East, Saudi Arabia, but also Asia with China and Australia. It's quite impressive to see such an outreach despite the time zones and differences. So many thanks to all of you. And please continue to raise your questions. Use the Q&A rather than the chat, so that your questions aren't diluted in the other types of messages, and we'll get back to them after the first round of speakers. I did pencil down 3 of them so far, so thank you, and please follow us on the OECD_local as well Twitter account. A social media campaign is going on in parallel. Let me now introduce our second speaker. It's really my pleasure to now invite Kilian Lohan, as I was saying, Vice President in charge of communication at the European Economic and Social Committee. You are a leader in the field of circular economy. You were actually the inaugural chair of the European Circular Economy Stakeholder platform. And it's my understanding that you've just been elected to the office of Vice President of EESC. My congratulations, and I give you the floor to share some of the views on how these recommendations can be implemented within the countries that you work with. You have the floor, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here with you today, and thanks for that introduction. Indeed, last week I was elected as the Vice President of the European Economic and Social Committee, and it's a good opportunity for me to bring the issues that are very close to my heart to the highest level within that institution. And of course, circular economy is one of those. What I wanted to share with you today in my comments is, first of all, huge congratulations on the work that you've done. I've read the report, and I think it's excellent and covers so much ground, and is really an icon for one of the key words for how we need to progress with our work in circular economy, which is collaboration. And as you mentioned, Aziza, the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform, of course, the institutions like to have very catchy titles for everything, and as you can tell, that's one of them. The Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform is something that we established in 2017, and it was a proposal from our committee, which was taken up by, at the time, Commissioner Timmermans and Katainen, who suggested we did it as a joint project. So it's the first of its kind, a joint project between us and the European Commission. And when I say us, for those of us who don't know who us are, which will be plenty of people looking at the variety of people who've joined us today, we are the home of civil society within the EU institutions. So we have businesses, trade unions, consumer groups, environmental groups, farmers, disability organizations, all represented by our Economic and Social Committee. And so we give a voice to stakeholders within the institutions. And in that sense, it was the first time ever that we did a joint project with the European Commission to set up this platform. And it has allowed us to really look at the spirit of collaboration. So I'm really pleased to see the process that the OECD went through for this report, because it mirrors the type of work we do. And indeed, as our first speaker mentioned, the lots of different cities and regions are developing their own strategies. And we did a particular study on that within the platform, which is available with so much more knowledge and information on the European Circular Economy Stakeholder Platform website. If you haven't fallen asleep by the time you've typed all of that into Google, you will see this wealth of information that we've shared there that has come from all the different stakeholders across member states, and indeed I know is known about beyond member states. There are a couple of points I wanted to comment on the report itself and on the work today. One is, I think, the opportunity to see cities as a repository of secondary raw materials is one we shouldn't underestimate. And the opportunity for a huge revolution in remanufacturing is something that will be at the center of circular economy. We know that we need the strong legislation. We see the first seeds of that within Europe within eco-design, for example, but we need it to be much broader in order to drive the transition. At the moment, in my experience, the business sector is ahead of the policy sector on this, and businesses are being innovative, cities are taking the lead and developing their own strategies, and we need the policy in many cases to catch up with what is required. In catching up with a really robust eco-design policy framework, it can mean that raw materials are easily and affordably retrievable from goods that are already in circulation. And there I see a huge opportunity for cities and regions to develop localized remanufacturing, where the first principle of circular economy, that the loops that we create are small and are closed, can be applied. The second point I wanted to make out of the report was you talk a lot about the need for new governance models. And I think that's essential. And I think the work that we're doing on the platform and that OECD has done in terms of the process to develop this report should be a working model for that. I think the governance structures need to be designed by the players who are involved within it. And we see that within opportunities for public procurement, for example, to be a huge driver to changing to circular economy as the normal practice. And we need, for that to happen, we need, of course, innovative business solutions, but we need innovative governance structures as well, so that we can respond to what's happening on the ground. And that brings me back to the first point I made of collaboration again. And I want to finish by emphasizing that I think that the process of collaboration is the only way to move forward on this, because it requires us to do what we often talk about in policy and what we often talk about in transitional ambition, is to break silos and talk to different people and to break out of the normal little boxes that we're in and work together in a way where we're collaborating, trying to build consensus and come up with solutions, rather than attacking each other or being in competition and trying to create these divides between us. So in so many ways, I see such huge relevance for the role of circular economy to bring people together, to create new opportunities. And I think the work that OECD is doing, spreading this out around the world, is invaluable, and the appetite is there for it. We can see, I was looking at the chat myself and wondering, apart from wondering how so many people in different time zones are awake to be able to log on. I hope we don't send them back to sleep if it is the middle of the night, but it shows that there's a huge appetite for this topic everywhere and a huge opportunity for us to develop it. So I hope this is the start of a lot of work that we'll do together. Certainly on the European scale, I think we're ahead of the curve with the stakeholder platform, and I'd encourage everyone today to go and have a look at that and see the information, because it's all just been piled on there, and it's actually driven and owned by the stakeholders. That's the key thing. So thank you for your time today and for inviting me to be part of this. I look forward to the rest of the discussion.
Thank you very much, Kilian, and let me, on behalf of the team and Oriana, thank you and all your teams for the great collaboration we've had in shaping this report. And as you said, the different platforms that are developing are connected to each other, and the energy that you can feel in the circular economy community, I think, is only encouraging going forward to connect the dots. And certainly within the roundtable on circular economy of the OECD and the platform that you've been spearheading, a lot together will be done in the future in the very same co-production fashion. Let me just, as two quick responses to questions that keep coming back in the chat, I do confirm that the webinar will be made live and will be uploaded to the Circular Economy webpage of the OECD, so you'll have an opportunity to go back, listen and share. It is also available and will be shortly after the webinar in the social media account of the OECD at OECD_local, so keep an eye on that. And that the passwords for those that actually want to download the report and not only to read it online as available can also be shared with the Circular Economy membership of the OECD Roundtable. So do liaise with the team after the webinar and you'll have access to that. Let me now turn to our last speaker in the high-level section of this webinar, and it's really my pleasure to now give the floor to Susan Aitken, leader of the Council of the City of Glasgow in the UK, not only one of the pilots of this work we've been doing on circular economy for 2 years, but also the next host of the 26th UN Climate Change Conference of the parties. And we thought this would be a very nice opportunity, although postponed to 2021, that gives more time to include this food for thought in the strategy, to hear from you on how you think that transition towards a circular economy and the goals of 26 coincide. Thank you very much, Suzanne.
Thank you very much, Aziza. It's a pleasure to be here from Scotland this afternoon. And as leader of Glasgow City Council, can I start by saying that it's been a real privilege for our city to play such an integral role in this important OECD project. And I'd really like to thank the OECD for all your assistance in the development of Glasgow's own circular economy strategy, which we have published just in the past few weeks. So Glasgow's been an active participant within the circular economy for a number of years now, and the decision was taken at the outset of our engagement that our approach should be business-led, significantly business-led, with the City Council acting as an enabler and a facilitator. And that's a new strand in a long-standing collaboration and partnership with the Glasgow Chamber of Commerce, which gave the necessary solid foundation and momentum for the work. So we want to reduce carbon emissions. We want to grow a cleaner, greener economy. And I'm absolutely clear that green business practices should be the basis of sustainable profits for Glasgow companies. So the work of the Chamber of Commerce and also Zero Waste Scotland the last couple of years has supported and motivated many companies to embrace circular strategies to help them to open up new revenue streams, increase competitive advantage, and realise financial savings using a range of practical initiatives. This isn't just about the theory of the circular economy, but about actually delivering it in real life. So Glasgow is a city of great ambition. We're also a city that can draw on a very strong history of partnership working and collaboration across sectors. And that in itself is one of our most sustainable assets as a city. And I was proud to launch our Sustainable Glasgow partnership earlier this year, with the circular economy at the heart of those discussions about our shared ambitions for the city. And the council that I lead published a circular economy route map for Glasgow just a few weeks ago, and we have set ourselves the target of becoming a fully circular city by 2045. But to underscore that, we've also set ourselves the target of becoming carbon neutral by 2030. So that's 15 years ahead of Scotland's national target and 20 years ahead of the UK as a whole. But that can really only be achieved with an acceleration of the continuing transition to a circular, stronger, fairer and more resilient economy, and all of those things go hand in hand. The Scotland of November 2020, though, is a very different world from the one just a few years ago when we embarked upon our circular journey, and COVID-19 has brought huge challenges and devastation on a local, national and global scale, as everyone on this webinar understands, I'm sure. So as we look to recover from the COVID crisis, which we hadn't foreseen, we must turn again to face the climate emergency, which we already know to be looming over us. Glasgow is a global city. We are internationalist in our outlook, and we have a long tradition of exchanging goods, people, and above all, ideas with the rest of the world. So I've been talking to many other city mayors and leaders over the past few months, and we all share a clear view that a green recovery from COVID should have the principles of a circular economy at its heart. These are peers from around the world, and they're now joining with Glasgow to generate another industrial transformation, one that's leading to a cleaner, greener economy and a society, and one that has circular innovation at the forefront. That's the global context for our work with the OECD, and that's the kind of urban vista that I know we all want to see for our post-COVID landscape. And Aziza's already mentioned it, but global initiatives don't come any bigger or more profound than the next UN Climate Change Conference, COP26, which I am very proud to say is going to be hosted by my city a year from now, exactly a year from now, between the 1st and 12th of November 2021. It's an incredible opportunity to add momentum to our current ambitions and encourage us all to try harder still in pursuit of them. We all want it to be at the point at which the world looks up from COVID, takes stock and resets our planetary future on a safer and a fairer course, a more just course for everyone. I believe in inclusive growth so that the economy delivers for all of our people and no one is left behind. I want to see sustainable growth so that our economy delivers for the planet and so that everyone benefits. And the circular economy offers us just such a prospect, both inclusive and sustainable. And I look forward to welcoming friends from the OECD and from our cities, our peer cities across the world in a year's time, and showing you the progress we've made in Glasgow in becoming a circular city, but also hearing from and learning from all of you about your progress, your ideas, your innovations, because it is that sharing and collaborating that will help us all to deliver on our shared ambitions to tackle the climate emergency and deliver a fairer society for all of our citizens. So thanks very much for listening, and thank you again to the OECD for being so instrumental in helping Glasgow make the progress that we've made so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Suzanne, and it really, again, a pleasure to work with Glasgow, and this gives me the opportunity to also thank the other pilot cities and countries that are in the webinar and that have been also subject to in-depth policy dialogues, from Umeå in Sweden all the way through Granada and Valladolid in Spain, Groningen in the Netherlands, and also Ireland, that has been really pioneering this multi-level dialogue across national government and cities as well. There are a number of questions, and it's now time to turn to the youth section of this webinar. Quick responses to some of them, and I leave the difficult ones to Oriana, who will be with Ender moderating the second half, and maybe can ensure that some of the interventions do respond to these. I think there was a question on what are the barriers that are experienced. I think what Lamia emphasized in terms of regulation, funding, and awareness would be pretty much the OECD's response, which also goes into another question about whether city employees are sufficiently informed and aware of the potential of the circular economy, potential that probably can be untapped through greater information, engagement, and awareness on that front. There are a few questions about the policy approach. I think the triptych that is offered in terms of looking at the role of cities and regions as enablers or promoters or facilitators responds to that question. Point about waste incineration being part of circularity. Oriana, you can get back to that. You always say circular economy is not only about waste. I think that's spot on. A few questions about whether studies were conducted in South Asia that maybe you can target later, and requests about data, statistics on how circular cities are. I know we have a scoreboard, and projections and data were produced at national level. Those are some of the issues in your conclusion you may wish to tackle, and I will hand over to you here, adding to what Lamia was saying before, how proud we are and grateful you are for your design of this work, but the leadership you have also shown. You are really the architect with your team of this report that is launched today. Thank you very much. Thank you, Lamia, Kilian, and Susan, for participating in the first half. And now, place aux jeunes, as we would say in French. Oriana, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Aziza, and all our panelists for this impressive presentation. Thank you very much for all the attendees. You are very active on the chat, and I would like to reiterate Aziza's message in terms of having access to our platform from the website, and also to the report. If you just drop me an email to me, we will send the report to you. And now I would like just to move towards our roundtable of young innovators. It was our idea and willingness within the team really to share with you some of the concrete cases we came across while we were working on this report over the last 2 years with a number of cities. So we had the pleasure to meet young innovators, very passionate and enthusiastic about their work, and they showed us that the circular economy is actually possible in cities. And what we will do in the next 20 minutes is really to try to share with you their experiences. I'm sure that will be super inspiring, and we will show that this is not just theory. So let's start with Laura Blair. We just heard from Susan from Glasgow, but Laura, you are working in Zero Waste Scotland as a sector manager for circular cities and regions. You've been very active in the while we were working, and we are still working on the case study of Glasgow, and you really believe that cities are well placed to lead the way on the circular economy, and also Scotland being the biggest cities, Glasgow being the biggest cities in Scotland, really can play an important role. So thank you very much for being here with us.
So, Laura, Zero Waste Scotland is supporting Glasgow in its transition towards the circular economy. So, how do you so? What are your expectations, for example, in terms of job creation?
Hi, thanks very much. It's great to be here, and thanks very much for the opportunity to speak today. As you said, Oriana, yes, Glasgow is Scotland's largest city, and so the opportunities and the sort of positive impacts for Glasgow could be really significant, particularly as we look to build back better during our period of green recovery. And I would expect that the impacts on Glasgow to include more retention of resource value and reduced carbon emissions through the designing out of waste, designing for repair, adoption of alternative business models, identification of markets for unavoidable co-buy products and end-of-life goods. I'd also expect to see a more connected, innovative, equal and resilient city with greater collaboration between businesses and between businesses and the community, as well as new kind of meaningful employment and redeployment opportunities with opportunities for upskilling and reskilling. And specifically on that point, since you've specifically mentioned it, Anda, a circle economy report for the Circular Glasgow project in 2017 identified that 6% of jobs in the city are currently, or at that time, related to the circular economy. A report from Zero Waste Scotland and Circular Economy published just last week actually identified that in southwest Scotland as a whole, about 7.7% of jobs in the region are actually related to circular economy. So although one of these figures is city level and the other one's regional, it does kind of suggest that maybe we're just starting to see an increase in circular related employment. But I think what's really important to remember here is creating thousands of valuable, sustainable jobs and developing a workforce with the required skills will be essential as we deliver the green recovery. So I really expect to see a significant increase in these figures, including within Glasgow, over the coming months and years. But all of these positive impacts that I expect to see within Glasgow come about primarily from attracting and nurturing innovative new businesses and practices within the city. And I can give you a few concrete examples of the types of businesses and projects that we now have in Glasgow, which demonstrate those impacts which I've kind of mentioned. So we've got organisations like Revive Eco, which is a great example of a new innovative business which has emerged from the city, set up by 3 students from Strathclyde University in Glasgow as a legacy from a second-year project, where they saw an opportunity to turn used coffee grounds into a garden fertiliser. They're also now working on the extraction of oil from used coffee, which can be used as an alternative for palm oil. So the opportunity here is that there's over 500,000 tonnes of coffee waste created in the UK and over 40,000 tonnes of that in Scotland. So the potential impact is considerable, both in terms of carbon reduction and waste reduction, but also potential for job creation if this can be expanded. We've also got a great example of organisational collaboration between the St Enoch Centre and the Repair Cafe, where the St Enoch identified an issue with prams being abandoned after people buying new ones, with many of them still working. So they teamed up with the Repair Cafe to help capture and restore those so they could be donated for charities for reuse. And just one last one, which demonstrates really environmental, economic and social benefits that we're starting to see come through We Scotland is an electronics recycling and reuse company employing circular economy principles. And in 2018 alone, they saved 48 tonnes of carbon emissions for 2 of their biggest partners, delivering cost savings of 70% simply by returning commodities to use. Not only that, but they are a member of the British Association for Supported Development, and over 40% of their workforce come from disadvantaged backgrounds. So these are just a few examples with many more organisations and collaborations out there in development. But overall, I think we've got a real opportunity to reinvent the city to the benefit of everyone, positive impacts for businesses, individuals, society and the environment. And with that in mind, I'll just end by borrowing the city motto to say that the circular economy really can help to let Glasgow flourish.
Thank you very much, Laura. This is impressive. We could have organized a webinar just dedicated to all these initiatives you are actually implementing in Glasgow. Please feel free to share any links through the chat so all the attendees have all the information. But now let's move from Glasgow to Granada in Spain. We have the pleasure of having with us Clemente Vergara Ballester. Clemente is a Sustainable Development Project Manager at Suez, Spain, which is the largest water operator for municipal water in the country. And during the last 5 years, Clemente designed and implemented sustainable strategies at Suez, considering, of course, the circular economy principles, and was one of the promoters of Granada as one of the case studies of the circular economy program with the OECD. So you you are really an active part of this study, and you contributed a lot also to the report. Thank you very much for this. So Clemente, Ander has a question for you.
Yeah. So Clemente, as a water specialist, you work on including circular economy principles into the water sector. And this is also a work carried out in Granada, one of the case studies of the OECD program. So starting from a sectorial approach, in this case, focus on water, how the city of Granada can move towards a holistic approach in relation to the circular economy.
Hi, thank you, Ander and Oriana, for letting me speak today in the name of the city of Granada, and particularly representing the good practice from the water sector and specifically from the wastewater side of the cycle. First of all, just remarking that this is not just a best practice in Granada, but it's a European reference, as we were referenced in the European Stakeholders platform on circular economy that we've been speaking about during this webinar. And the thing is that we have succeeded in transforming a wastewater treatment plant into a biofactory. Let's say like from a linear economy facility into a circular one. A biofactory is at the end 100% circular facility. We have moved from a facility that used to consume fossil energy to generate all the processes that have to be taken carry out for managing the wastewater into a self-sufficient plant generating its own renewable energy, and we're actually generating more energy than the one we need. So we're even selling a surplus of renewable energy to the grid. We have moved from a facility that used to generate tons of waste into a facility that it's valorizing up to 99% of the waste, and we're working on that small 1% fraction due to strong regulation into that fraction. And the most important, we are also regenerating water, so we can use it for irrigating the crops surrounding the biofactory in the Vega de Granada. And let's say this point, and the water is the most important one, as we are facing harder and harder scarcity of water in Spain year by year. And I think Lamia mentioned it at the beginning of the webinar, like water demand will keep on increasing, will be around 55%. Don't know if that's 2030 or 2050 figure. And all of this also promoting biodiversity and not just eliminating negative impacts. All of these efforts have allowed us also to be carbon neutral last year in the water management. So this is a big milestone. And our message from here, from Granada to the world, is that water management can be managed in a circular way and in a carbon neutral way. This can be applied to and scaled up to any city in the world. You don't need huge investments. You don't need really complicated technology. You just need good political will, good, in our case, the key was the private and public collaboration. And answering the second part of the question, how to scale this up or how to move from a sectorial water approach to a more holistic one for the city. I think I don't have a single answer. The answers, I think, are written in your report for Granada. That's a very good starting point. If I had to remark one, I would say maybe that identifying those synergies among municipal departments and working in a more vertical and metropolitan way of managing resources, and maybe also also taking advantage of the potentialities that university, the innovation clusters that are well established in the city, how to move towards digitalization in order to have more data and to have a better management of circular economy.
Indeed, thank you very much, Clemente, for highlighting one of the messages of this report, the fact that when we asked cities surveyed about the main obstacles, indeed, they flagged that the technical solution exists. So in the problem or the main obstacles are really from the governance dimension, the governance point of view in terms of financing, regulation that should be updated according to the innovation capacities, technical and human capacities. So the work that we are carrying out in many cities is really looking forward to tackling these many issues and finding ways forward to develop capacities and moving towards the transition. And now we are moving to Groningen in the Netherlands, where we were conducting interviews with many stakeholders. We had the pleasure to meet Alex van Oost. Alex is the director of Northern Innovation Lab Circular Economy. And throughout his professional career, Alex has worked on the transition towards a sustainable built environment in particular. And in this circular lab is bringing innovation from different perspectives. He worked from governmental organization to knowledge institutions, university, and also private sector. So it's bringing entrepreneurial but also academic perspective in this lab. So Alex, welcome. Ander, please.
Yeah, so the report we are presenting today and also the case study in the city of Groningen show that the circular economy is a shared responsibility across several stakeholders. So, Alex, how this apply to the built environment in the city of Groningen?
Yes, thank you, Oriana. Thank you, Ander, for this opportunity to participate in the launch of this report. And it was a pleasure to participate in the whole report. Talking about Groningen, I would like to say that we'd like to confirm that collaboration is key, or maybe even would like to stress it more. Collaboration is the only hope we have. I think collaboration is one of the aspects in Groningen that we were quite successful to pursue. And like I'm director of NICE, who brings together all these perspectives from a triple helix, I would say, to a quintuple helix, that would be the step to be made by cities and regions. Not only connecting academies or industry and government, but also society and environment. And I think cities and regions are the places to also connect place and people. So that's what we've done in Groningen. And looking at the construction industry, we already talked during the introduction about the secondary raw materials. A city and the building industry is a huge user of raw materials. And one of the researches that has been done in the northern part of Holland, and Groningen has participated in that, is about the urban mine. And urban mining, I think, is a very solid strategy to start innovations within the built industry. So reusing materials, but also looking at the future perspective, design for disassembly, or the design for reassembly, I would say. And that brings me to the point that we have a beautiful project in the region of the Northern Netherlands that's called We Live Circular. And it's a collaboration between all the social housing associations of the province of Drenthe, together with professionals from the building industry and universities and universities of applied science, all together in one big living lab in search of the social house, the circular social house of the future. And what we discovered during this process was that collaboration, like I said, is key. And it means collaboration between the social housing associations, but also a different collaboration, I would say, more a kind of a partnership between clients and procurers. And what we discovered is when you define a new type of question that brings those parties together in a kind of a expedition, I would say, brings about much more innovation than just the normal way of procurement. And to finish off, public procurement, and I'm looking at cities and regions, and I already heard that 60% of procurement can be from the public sector. I would say creating demand is crucial. The whole market and young people and learning how to do or how to make a practice out of circular economies all starts with the demand side. So it's very important for cities to use their public procurement for circular, in a circular way, and in that way boost the whole industry. Lastly, I would like to finish off with the aspect of the need for strengthening capacity for change. Strengthening capacity for change is another crucial aspect if we want to make the transition to a circular economy. And the strengthening for capacity for change is part of, I would say, public authorities, but also within universities. So starting a program with transformational learning from practice, I think is a very successful strategy we've been using in the North. And it's a kind of a bottom-up strategy in connection with young people. And I can say that already in the program of NICE, we had 300 students who participated the last 2 years in all different kinds of projects. So, and that's just a starting point.
Thank you very much. And again, I invite you to share any links. There are many interventions in the chat, questions for you on how actually implement this kind of collaboration. So if you can share any further information and links, there are many people interested. Thank you very much. And now let's go back to Spain, to Valladolid. No, actually, I have Umeå first, so we remain in the north. We remain in the north with Laura Vigge. Laura is a circular economy expert. She created her consultancy firm based in Umeå on sustainability and circular matters. She's a lecturer, educator. She also coordinated, and she's a former board member of the NGO called CradleNet, which promotes circular economy in Sweden since 2009. Of course, Laura contributed enormously to the circular economy in cities report in Umeå, Sweden, as well as to this report that we are launching today. Ander.
Yeah, so Laura, the case of Umeå shows that people, businesses, and organizations are pushing for the transition towards the circular economy. So could you tell us how people are increasingly getting engaged in circular economy initiatives in Umeå?
Yes, thank you very much for the invitation, Ander and Oriana. As you said, my name is Laura Vigge and I represent Umeå in the north of Sweden. And I'm originally from Berlin in Germany, and I've worked with circular economy in Sweden for the past 8 years, both as a municipal employee, as a consultant, and also with the NGO CradleNet. And so I have an insight in a range of different perspectives, so to say. And when I was part of the board of CradleNet 6 years ago, I was asked to start a Nordic branch for the NGO when I moved to Umeå, and I gladly did that. And it was a lot of fun. And the first meeting that we had 4 participants. So that was a bit of a bummer. So I would say every start is quite difficult and people didn't really know what circular economy was at the point. But already the second meeting, we had invited Anders Wikman from the Club of Rome to present his study on the potential of circular economy in Sweden. And we attracted by that already 100 participants from very different sectors. So that was very successful. And after that, we had regular CradleNet meetings every month, we could say. We had breakfast meetings or study visits. And there was about 20 participants each time. And I would say we kind of formed a group where we together learned and discussed things and really created knowledge together. And we have members from the private, the public, and the civil sector. So everything from entrepreneurs to pensionists to students, everyone is welcome to join. So it's a great platform to also connect people, as others talked about. And here in Umeå, we visited local actors already that had circular solutions in place, like remanufacturing, product as a service, a sharing app that was starting. But also we looked at the energy waste and water companies that the municipality has and discussed circular business models with the business school. So it's very a broad range of things that we looked at together. And we also joined conferences. We collaborated with other organizations and conducted urban mining workshops just to get some more hands-on learning, so to say, which is a lot of fun. And we already had continuous discussions with representatives from the municipality that joined our meetings as well, which was great. And as a consultant at the same time, we did a pre-study for the city with lots of stakeholders that established that knowledge and capacity building were the most important first steps that we had to do more of. So after that, we conducted study trips to Denmark, where politicians and municipal employees and business developers took part, both to create a network, but also to learn from the Danish companies and regions and what they had done, because they had a lot more experience already. So all of this continued knowledge building that brought like a few key stakeholders together who got more and more engaged and pushed for more action and collaboration during these last 5-6 years, we could say. And through CradleNet, we also got, I got asked to recommend a city to join the OECD study. So that was very much fun, because then I could recommend Umeå, of course. So I'm very happy for everyone that was involved and who worked for making Umeå join the study. And that, you know, now Umeå can take concrete action to actually fulfill its goals and obligations that they had written in the strategic plan, which is to become a leader in circular economy. And I would say as a call for action now that we really need to like take the recommendations from the OECD study and make a concrete strategy with goals that we can measure. We need to map the initiatives and make them more visible, because let's face it, many like inhabitants don't know about all of these circular initiatives. Many companies don't know about them yet. And we probably should create circular ambassadors like Glasgow has done as well. That seems like a great idea. And I think we also need to map metabolism flows, both on the city scale, but also on the regional scale, to really see that we can make and bring together and create local benefits and value. And I think the whole thing about creating a circular culture is still something we really need to work on a lot more to get everybody on board and see that there's a vision of the circular economy as a real alternative that has positive development.
Indeed, thank you very much, Laura. This is what the city of Umeå is actually doing. We are working together for the implementation of the recommendation that actually are the result of stakeholder consultation. So thank you much for the support by all the stakeholders that have taken part in the OECD mission during the last couple of years. So thanks a lot. The role of the cities that you can find in the report are really divided in three main clusters: as a promoter of the circular culture we are talking about, because it's important to promote knowledge, facilitator of dialogue and collaboration, while also putting in place the enabling condition for the circular economy. Thank you. And now we go back to Spain, as I was mentioning just a couple of minutes ago. We are going to Valladolid with Beatriz Quintana Vega. Beatriz is the founder of a Circular Culture, Cultura Circular, and she is the co-director of the Master in Circular Economy, Technology and Social Innovation of the European University Miguel Cervantes. She was part of the Ellen MacArthur Foundation training program for circular economy pioneers, and she is a truly believer of the circular economy principles in terms of how the circular economy can really provide jobs opportunities, but also innovation in the cities, and especially for young entrepreneurs. Ander.
Yeah, so Beatriz, the city of Valladolid promoted the circular economy through grants to young innovators to start up their different activities. And your project was one of those selected. So I would like to ask you, what would you recommend to young circular innovators like you in Valladolid?
Okay, thank you, Anders and Oriana and the whole team. For me, it's a pleasure to be representing Valladolid and the young innovators. So first of all, I would like also to tell that Valladolid is a pioneer in the implementation of these circular strategies in the city. And one of the key elements, as you say, it was the implementation of this grant. for creating new projects, and it has been in place for around 3 years with a total of 61 projects and more than 1,500,000 euros invested. So it's quite a lot of money. So it's a good beginning for starting to change the model. Thanks to those grants, I founded in 2018 the project that you talk about, Oriana, Cultura Circular, Circular Culture, and with the purpose of creating the culture based on a circular economy. So basically, we have a focus on 2 areas. The first of all is the disruptive training. And we have done activities in universities, schools, also in companies in order to change the mindset and start to bring aware that it's important to look in a different way the reality, and create different business models. Another way is, or the area that we have been focusing is just the transformation of the business model towards a circular one. So now we have more than 6 projects, among which I would like to highlight Hogar Circular, that is one that's from the past. But nowadays, thanks to the pandemic, we have created the online project with a clear objective of generating circular ecosystems in the family, because we really believe that home is a good beginning and is the heart of the society, and it cannot be treated in isolation from the new social and economic models. So this project really started in 2019 with a circular kitchen that we create kind of a kitchen in the street, and we stayed around 10 weeks and we talked with the citizens about the new concept and the benefits of implementing circular strategies in their own house. So for example, how to reduce waste, to reduce the impact of our consumption. And this project was very good because we were really close to the citizens. We were able to talk with them and also understand the difficulties that people have in order to implement and understand the circular economy. So I just would like to share with the young innovators from my city, from all over the world, people who are listening to us, that to bear in mind that entrepreneurship is not just about having a good idea that generates income, or not just about starting a business. Entrepreneurship is an attitude, and the important thing for me is to know what moves you and what is your ultimate intention. So money is always a consequence of the value that you bring to the world. It cannot be a cost, otherwise it's not going to succeed your business. So if you feel that you're really passionate as I am, about circular economy, and you want to provide solutions to the many real problems that we are facing now in Valladolid, in Spain, in Europe, and if you want to do it through your work, just go for it. And I think it's one of the most rewarding ways to it. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Beatriz. It's really nice to hear about how an idea can become a project, and then a project can become much more than just a work. It's really how to change people's lives. Thanks a lot for your testimony. And last but not least, we move to Dr. Geraldine Brennan from Ireland. Ireland is another OECD case study. This time we have a national perspective. Geraldine is Senior Circular Economy Program Manager at the Irish Manufacturing Research, and she's responsible for the design and delivery of the National Platform for Circular Manufacturing, which is the Ireland's first circular economy innovation network.
Thank you very much, Geraldine, for being with us today. So to conclude, I would like to tell you, through your work at the Irish Manufacturing Research, you have come across example of have you come across example of local value chains, closed loop in Ireland?
Thank you, Oriana and Anders. It's a pleasure to be here today and amongst such an esteemed group of people who are advocating for the circular economy around Europe and further afield. Yes, through Circulera, the National Platform for Circular Manufacturing, which is an industry-led innovation network, we have come across some of our members are actually part of these new value chains that enable both materials, components and products to be kept in the economy for longer. For example, we have a material reprocessor who takes waste byproducts from the ICT sector and creates new co-products. We have, in terms of ICT, there's a lot of opportunities for preparation for reuse and remanufacturing. We have ICT asset management companies who are enabling refurbishment and remanufacturing. We have actors who are effectively creating product lifecycle management systems to, again, enable companies to set up take-back systems and essentially retain the value, the economic value, as well as the embedded emissions associated with their products, and put them back out onto the markets. We have a lot of examples of activities in the bioeconomy space, the circular bioeconomy space, ranging from dairy processed waste being transformed into nutraceuticals and different forms of bio-based plastics. We have examples of EcoSim, which is an Irish company that has taken granulated furnace blast slag from steel and created an alternative to Portland cement. The circular economy in Ireland is happening in so many different places. We have examples like the New Wardrobe, which is effectively a new venture which promotes collaborative consumption and sharing of clothes to reduce the throughput economy of fast fashion. We have examples in the third sector related to things like upcycling and refurbishment of furniture, textiles through actors like Thrifty and the Rediscovery Centre. In terms of medical devices, we have Stryker who are remanufacturing those. So there's so much exciting things going on in Ireland. And the thing I'd just like to bring to bear, because we think we're going and looking at a national context, IMR, through our work with Circulaire, has identified that the circular economy represents a €2 billion annual opportunity to the Irish economy, which is a massive incentive to our founding industry members who are cross-sectoral. They're from pharmaceuticals, medical devices, chemicals, the built environment, agri-food, and it's a really exciting time because the Government of Ireland is committed to the transition and set up a circular economy unit and are committed to developing, building on the work and the feedback from the OECD dialogue, an all-government strategy and subsequently different sectoral reports. So very exciting time and lots to share and lots to learn from all those who are gathered here today. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Oh, indeed, thank you, Geraldine, for sharing these amazing initiatives, and we look very much forward to finalizing the work in Ireland and also to contribute to the next circular economy strategy. My colleague Colette is sharing the last slide, the thank you slide. Thank you very much for participating. Thank you very much to all the speakers and participants for joining and providing input and questions. Thank you also, of course, to my team, Luis Cecchi and Andres Aguirre. Thanks a lot. That was really an effort, but I'm glad we made it. And I will invite you to take a picture of the QR code. You can read the report online on your mobile. And if you wish to send us any questions or to get the report in PDF, just drop us an email. And I will also invite you to keep in touch through LinkedIn or Twitter, our newsletter. My colleagues shared the link to get connected to the newsletter of the OECD CFE, the Center for Entrepreneurship, SMEs, Cities and Regions, where this OECD program on the circular economy in cities and regions is located. We are still working on several other case studies, more work to come on the circular economy in cities. So if you wish to join the program or to have more information, do keep in touch. I thank you very much for your participation and see you at the next webinar. Thanks a lot. Bye.